Welcome to Yellow Skunk Farms. Quick disclaimer, this is a 21-year-old and up channel. We do not sell or advocate any type of illegal drugs. If you are not 21 years of age, please leave now. Thank you. So we propped up the Monstera, as you can see, a little bit better. I mean, I really gave her a good push and propped her up a little bit better than what she was. And now we've got a lot more room here. That thing was stretched out here, if you go back to yesterday's video. So I just decided to go ahead and really stick her up there. Oh, you can see how huge it is. Just get massive leaves on it, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. You can see the one back there. They were starting to just grow completely over the pond. So I really didn't want it going over into the, this area here. So we're going to make it go up, hopefully up and out, and then eventually we get this side done, and we'll try and force it over this way, and get it to kind of come this way instead of that way. Or maybe we can get it to go both ways. We'll see. I'm pretty sure over time that thing will just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the ladies in here are really looking good. We are seeded, by the way, if this is your first time. About, maybe, has it been 2 weeks now? We cut out the male. So here's the old stump. Go around this. Here's the old stump. You can see it's just about broken down now. See the biology breaking everything down, all the old roots. This will completely be broken down by the mites. You can see just tons of life down there. You can see the isopod there. It's basically aerating my soil for me. And then you can see everything's trying to get away from that light right now. Oh, did you see that? Looked like a springtail jump. That was cool. So you see all that moisture there too. That moisture is all coming from the creek. So all that moisture is being wicked up way over here, all through this grass root, all the way up into the soil pockets. You can see the grass root, the grass is just coming on in. And that's what we want them to do. We want them to keep on extending into the soil bed. You can see them coming on in. This means the worm castings are getting broken down. All that sand, silt, and clay that we've spread across the top of our soil, it's being broken down into these worm castings, and it's wicking up all that moisture, and it stays moist all the time. And then once we get the grass roots, there's an old stump. Well, nothing there now, but once we get these grass roots going, then we can just plant. Boom. We'll be able to plant, just imagine us all this, all the way across, which we'll get there. And we'll be planting directly into this worm casting here, this layer that stays moist all the time. And that moisture seeps down into the soil, keeping that biology nice and active on that top 4 to 6 inches. As we build our layers up, we just keep adding that sand and that silt as it gets broken down, and we're off to the races. Let's go over here and check. Elephant ears. This is part of the, I guess you would say, cover crop. I get a lot of questions on the covers and why these plants are here. So the best way I can describe why these plants are here is as a staged succession in nature. So from the creek, you're going to get grass, okay? And then you're going to get different types of grass. So you've got this, you've got this, we've got dandelion here, which is a type of weed, but a medicinal weed. Also with a huge white taproot. These leaves, it's known for pulling calcium. So these leaves are medicinal leaves, and what we're doing is, calcium is a heavy element. It's one of the heaviest elements on the periodic table. So what happens is that calcium can sink down in the soil. It can fall down into the soil, it can sink, and what happens is over time all the calcium goes from the top to the bottom, and then we get the dandelion in to pull that calcium up from the lower portions of the soil and pull it back up into its leaves. Then we can chop and drop the leaves. Once this gets broken down, this will release that calcium back into the top half of the soil where your plants can access. So there is purpose behind everything in here. Everything that's here has a purpose, which is really cool. Sometimes we just have a hard time seeing that purpose, but it's there for a reason. Like if we see something bad, that something bad's there because it's eating, it has food. So I'm just going to pick some of that algae up. You see that? I just stuck it down there, picked some of that algae up, and then I'm just going to cover this and set this right beside that. And that's going to allow that moisture to get on that top there. We're not pushing down on anything, just laying it on there. We're going to let that moisture and that algae seep down through there, and voila, food for microbes. That's all I'm thinking about, is feeding the biology in the soil. So long as these guys have food to break down and turn, look at that, it just snaps. That's the old cannabis stalk. But yeah, as soon as all this gets broken down, it returns everything back to the soil, and just like nature does, we just have to steward it a little bit, make sure things don't get out of hand. With all this extra grass here, I'll just give it a little chop. See the bush, so the bush, the grasses, all this stuff is what comes first, and then we get the bushes. So we go grasses, the bush gives us multiple different lines. You see how it spreads out, gives us like almost a tree here, and then it'll spread itself out, the bush does, and all those roots are going down in there. And the bush, unlike the grass roots only go a certain depth. These bush roots go way down, deeper than these grass roots. And then the elephant ear here is a tree. So we go down in here, you can see these trees. These get big. See, this one doesn't even have, we didn't kill it, but we just cut it back to where it stopped growing. Then when we cut it back, this one grew right beside it. And then this one grew. So they spread like crazy. They don't need to be planted. You get these big leaves on them, so you can just take the leaf and lay it right down here, break it up a little bit, just lay it right on that sand, silt, and clay, and the critters will come around and eat it up. But the tree root goes all the way to the bottom of the floor. It's all the way down. It'll tap into the reservoir, just like that. Those over there, it'll tap down all the way down into the all the way down to that clay, sand, and reservoir area. And these trees kind of really give me a good Like at first it had disease. It was fungal disease. It was getting a lot of this, you can see. Getting a lot of that. And I noticed this when, as the tree gets older and starts to kind of like, I don't know, it was weird. I think these fungal spots here, or disease spots, is from where the roots get all the way down into the anaerobic zone, and there's not enough air down there to sustain the biology, so the biology turns bad and we get little funk growing and it'll just kind of die off. But as the bed has grown and gathered steam, you can see how healthy they are now. They're not dying off like they were, so they're finding their spot, and the biology down there is starting to get better, starting to create that oxygen that we need. You can see how that was just covering it up. You see the difference in color. It's that light. It doesn't get light. This is what happens. It starts to, bad things happen. But it doesn't kill it off. It just, everything goes around. And just that one area will get discolored from not hitting that light. This stuff gets very slimy. That elephant ear is like a greasy, it's like pests just don't eat it. You know what I mean? It's got this weird smell to it. This is the Jolly Pond. Yes, we do have seeds. We did, like I said, we did seed all of this. Everything in here is going to be seeded, which was on purpose. We want the seeds just because we were running low and we needed some more of this. Well, this is Jolly Pond and this is Jolly Pond. So we're going to have 2 Jolly Ponds and the rest are yellow skunks. I don't know if you can see it or not. Look at the difference in color and why I call it yellow. It's just got this weird yellow to it. I don't know if you can see it. But a funky, beautiful plant. Gets very big, stacks nice. You know what I mean? Just very all around. Tested really high when I grew it the first time, but I didn't grow it right. So we'll see this time what we get. Tested in the 28 range. Pretty flower though. And it's only day 38. So you can see the difference. It's like a weird color change. Like this is the runt, but still pretty flower, just the runt. Most of them get big like this, stack nicely like the other one over there. But yeah, that's what we got going on. Go over here and check out the pond. There's Pooter down there just messing around eating. We don't feed every day. We feed maybe twice a week. They don't need to eat, and since I start doing that, the pond is so much cleaner. I mean, they eat the algae, they eat all the stuff in it. I don't want to get them hooked on pellet food. You know, I want them and force them to eat and clean the pond. That's what they're here for. They're cleaning machines. In nature, that's what they're there for. They're there to help keep balance, but you can't just feed them because their poo creates the bad things that we're trying to avoid. We need a little poo, not a lot of poo. So by not feeding them, and by not feeding them all that high octane food, they're not pumping out all that high octane crap. So here they're pumping out, you know, algae and whatever else they're freaking eating in here. But, you know, Cooter, you know, and the turtles, they got so used to me coming over here and feeding them. Now look at him. He sees me, so he's like, hey, where's my food at? I don't want him doing that, really. I want him to know me, but I don't want him to know me because I feed him. Even though that's how they know me. But if you understand what I'm saying, I don't want to overfeed. They need to be able to eat everything in this pond here to keep that pond clean like it is. You can see clear to the bottom, and that's 18 inches deep. And it looks like it's like nothing. That's how clear it is. That's how clean it is. And I don't use a filter box. So there's just one pump over there. There's that one pump pumping up water coming out right there. No filter box. The creek is the filter. So the creek is what's filtering out all the poo and everything before it gets back here, releasing all that energy into the soil beds where the plants can hopefully get it over time. You know, this takes time. So you should see this back when I first started. It was nothing. Now that we've established roots in the system, now these roots, all the roots, are what's driving this system. So if you're new to the system, like I said, or to just growing in general, the basic fundamentals here are the light. The plant takes the light, photosynthesizes it into sugar, pushes these sugars down into the soil, feeding the microbiology out of the roots. So the more roots we have in the system, the more energy and sugar we're pushing out into the system, because it's the plants that are doing that. All the different types of plants. They all have their different roles. They all photosynthesize. They all create light or turn light into simple carbohydrates, cakes, cookies. This is what Dr. Elaine Ingham says. The soil food web then takes into effect in this system, because this system is complete with everything it needs to connect the dots or connect the chain, the loop, so to speak, the poop loop. Everything has a home, everything has a spot to grow and thrive and do their job. So once the roots start pushing those sugars down in there, the microbiology then takes over, mining sand, silt, clay, and organic matter in our soil pockets, releasing that nutrient and energy back to the plant where the plant can access it and take full advantage of it. I haven't watered the bed in 4 months, going on 5 months. I mean, I don't have to. It didn't take long for me to realize that watering like a morning dew, so to speak, is no good. No bueno in something like this. We don't need it because the moisture is just underneath this mulch layer. So just underneath the mulch layer, as long as look at that huge dairy cow. How big that thing is. That's an isopod. That's a shredder. That's an arthropod. They call it. Arthropods are shredders. They're like the guys we can see and that are shredding all this organic matter. They tear it up and they break it up. And then the next stage is like the worm. They get it to the point where the worm can then kind of insert it into its mouth and run it through its system. But you can see just underneath this mulch layer is moisture. And it's coming from the creek because it's being wicked in. Look at that. Just under, look at that earwig. It's a shredder.
The soil moves. If you stare at it long enough, it'll just move. These guys are aerating the soil for me. You won't see any perlite, you won't see any aeration. The reason you don't see any aeration is because we don't need it. The grass roots from all this grass create air channels. The worm as long as we don't go pushing down on them, the worm castings are like little balls. See how they roll around? They can be rolled around very easily by the critters. There's plenty of nutrient in there. You know, like, let's just look at this. Look at the worm. Do you see that? You see the worm? Look at those roots. Look how clean they are. This is what we're looking for. As long as I don't go pushing on that aeration, the air is plentiful. The moisture is plentiful. We can't have too much moisture here. And the reason there will never be, the only way there'll be too much moisture here is if I water it. Period. Because the natural wicking action of these worm casts in that sand and that silt and that clay, the same stuff that's in the bottom of the creek is pulled up over the creek wall. This is what happens to it. It gets run through by the worms and then the critters, and then the springtails run through that, and they're all eating the bacteria and everything that's in there, all the fish waste, everything is being wicked up into here, and it'll only hold the perfect amount of water. Like, it won't wick. It'll get to a certain point, like a sponge, and stop. But it'll hold that moisture level as long as the creek is flowing. So as the flow in the creek is creating aeration in the water itself. So when the water dumps down up there, air. Over here in the pond, aerating, air. When it drops back in, air. All of these spots are pulling air into those water molecules and flowing down. Everywhere you see water like trickling, like breaking the top surface there, it's picking up air. And so that means that all the moisture that's in here being wicked up has air in it. If you understand what I'm saying, the air is inside the water molecule that when it's this is called structured water. So they call it structured water because usually, you know, a vortex spin, a spiral spin, or like if you go to like a whitewater rapids or something like that, where you'll see water just crashing down, turning and creating air. Fish love it because it's so much air, it's so oxygenated. So the more oxygen I can get into my water, the better off and better health we're going to get and see in the everything that grows around it. Because it's got that air, it won't go anaerobic. You can't have too much moisture because it's the air trapped inside the water. I hope that makes sense. I know it can be complicated at first, but once you realize that the air, like every place that water is breaking up on the surface, air is being pulled in. And this is why things don't go crazy bad over here. Look at the frost on the like, you know what I mean? It's like nature. If you go deep down into this layer here, where there is no air, this is where we go anaerobic. If there's soil down there, if it's just sand and silt and clay, these things that have already been broken down to their finest form, it won't go anaerobic because it's always sitting in water. It's meant to be there. It's meant to be in water. The biology is that's what it needs. But down in the soil, we don't need soaking. We get swamp.
if we set soil in non-aerated water. But if we aerate the water before we enter it into the soil and let it sit there, it'll stay aerobic for a while and then it'll deplete. But if we maintain flow and that oxygen stays consistent all the time, it doesn't run out of oxygen as long as the water's flowing. It's a pretty cool system. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the basics of how, like, air is so important, and aeration in the soil. This is why, you know, they put perlite and all these different things in it, mainly because it's light. You know what I mean? That's the whole reason why you don't get a real soil in a bag, is because it's too damn heavy. Or if you do get real soil that has sand, silt, and clay in it, it's usually a small bag that weighs less than 20 pounds. A big bag, you're not going to get the sand, the silt, and the clay in it because it's too heavy and they can't ship it. So that's really the main reason why we have perlite and all this other stuff. Why we use peat moss, because we just can't ship real soil. It's too heavy. So we come up with peat moss, which is light, fluffy. Add perlite to it, boom, you got you a bag that grandma could throw over her shoulder. But you're gonna have to feed it. And you're gonna have to feed it and feed it and feed it and feed it and feed it. Over here, we don't have to feed. We don't have to do anything but set the biology and set the stage for the biology to break down the sand, the silt, and the clays that have and are holding all that nutrient. Because that nutrient is trapped inside that sand and that silt and that clay and the organic matter. So we chop and drop everything, and then we're getting the moisture from there, and then we just steward everything, and the biology does everything else as long as we maintain that flow. Maintain water, maintain flow, everything else just falls into place. You can see our Monstera. We jacked that up. We're going to try and get that to go. I think I already explained that at the beginning, didn't I? But there's Plinko. How big he's got. Good God, Plinko. What in the world? You're huge. You're almost as big as Pooter. You're gonna get hit. He's gonna get big. Big, big, big. Constantly working in logs. Getting that algae out. Today is Saturday, I believe. Yep. So happy Saturday to everybody. I hope everybody has a good one. And we're gonna be cutting out of here. Right after, look at that Monstera leaf, just beauty. That's that new one. I hope everybody has a great, everything looks good back here. And we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.